time, Scott McTominay, one of the contenders after his brilliant season with Napoli. Also, Liverpool are ready to say goodbye to Darwin Núñez, the Telegraph Sports section reflects.
Work out, they say. Welcome on once again to Jonathan and to Ihsan. Great to see you both. OK, so let's start off with the transfer news and obviously the big story. As this move edges closer, it does feel like a case of when rather than if. Benjamin Šeško to join Manchester United, and on the back of your paper, Jonathan, it says United wrap up 73.3 million Šeško deal to spoil Newcastle's plans. So this one does feel like it, he's landed, to kind of finalise this deal. And when you look at now where United are at with Mbeumo, with Matheus Cunha and Benjamin Šeško, how does that transform things?
Well, it certainly transforms the feel around the club. The United fan base that will have been, I think, totally despondent and possibly, at the end of their tether following the Europa League final last summer, the way the league season ended, will be feeling that most dangerous of footballing substances again, hope, ahead of the new season. And that front line is totally, it's reinvented. Cunha and Mbeumo, you have to assume, will probably play players as the 10s in that 3-4-3 system, and Šeško now as that number 9, assuming that deal does go through. What does he bring? Obviously the physical attributes we all know about. He's fast, he's tall, he's extremely mobile, he's young, he's got resale value. He's not going to break the bank in terms of wages, and he's got a good record in the Bundesliga with Leipzig, and before that with Salzburg. Does the fact that he's scored goals for Leipzig mean that he's going to score goals elsewhere? I think that the jury's slightly out on that. I think we saw with Timo Werner, for example, with Christopher Nkunku, that the style of football that Leipzig play and the sort of teams that you come up against in the Bundesliga, it's not automatically transferable to the Premier League. You look at how Højlund's figures dropped off when he came to the Premier League. You look at other big number 9s who have come from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, and it's not a done deal. For every Haaland, there's a full crew. So what I would say is that for Šeško, the ceiling is quite high. I mean, he's obviously been on the radar for a lot of Premier League teams, a lot of really good Premier League teams for some years now. The fact that nobody has taken a gamble on him yet at this kind of money, and United have, suggests that it is a gamble of sorts. So it's one that, if it does pay off, it's obviously huge for them. United fans will be extremely, extremely gratified. I think that they've managed to beat off the competition of Newcastle. Whether he's going to be a guaranteed success, I think that's the sort of thing that only time's going to tell.
Yeah, if we look at the back page of the Times sports section with the headline, United take spending past £200 million. It's a piece from friend of the show, Charlotte Dunker. And talking about the numbers here, we're talking about whether it pays off, Jonathan, but Ihsan, to you, £66.3 million is the initial fee, 7.4 million is the add-ons potentially, is what they're reporting. Does that feel like, a fair price for a young but unproven player in the Premier League, at least? And it feels, in terms of United's overall spending, now that would take it up to around £214 million.
I think overall it's a good piece of business. You only have to look at last summer and even this window in terms of Arsenal. Šeško was right up there as Arsenal's main priority for their striker targets, and one of the main factors as to why they've not gone for Šeško and put their eggs in the basket of Victor Gyökeres was just how hard it was to deal with RB Leipzig on this deal, because RB Leipzig last summer extended Šeško's contract to 2029. They had all the bargaining power and they didn't need to sell him, which made any deal such a difficult prospect. So the fact that Man United have been able to get in there and obviously ward off Newcastle, but also find a way to get this done, I think it's a good piece of business overall. And you only have to look at the intricacies of the deal too, like the extensive add-ons and the fact that both clubs have even agreed to have a friendly at some point too. So it definitely will have been a complex deal, but one that Man United have got over the line, have got done. And I know other teams have obviously looked at him and not signed him, but the fact that Man United, have beaten other teams to this, it's a good sign.
What does it mean for the future of Rasmus Højlund, Jonathan, and also potentially?
This ends at all.
Let's move on to cheerier topics, shall we? Let's get back to Jonathan's paper and the Ballon d'Or and the women's awards list. And you're carrying this Tom Gary's piece, Jonathan. There's a fair chance of plenty of Lionesses picking up different awards here, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, if from an England point of view, you just have to hope they don't split the vote. I think Arsenal have 7. Is it 7 players on the list? From
7, yeah.
That Champions League winning side. You know, I think, you know, we love to argue about these lists and quibble about them. I think the major trend that it does show, that this short list, is the way the balance of power has shifted from North America towards Europe. The vast majority of the players on the short list, either coming from the major European leagues, from major European countries. I think there's maybe a couple from the US women's national team and just a handful from the NWSL, and that would have been frankly unthinkable even 5 or 6 years ago. So I think it just shows that how the gravity of the women's game has shifted towards the clubs like Barcelona and Arsenal and Chelsea and PSG, who I think have the facilities and have the structure to attract so much better talent from all over the world these days. And I think this is a seismic moment in the game in that respect.
Back page of the Times has a picture of Scott McTominay, of course, won Serie A with Napoli, MVP in Serie A as well. Ihsan, listen, I mean, I think, you know, you're a dreamer if you're thinking that he might actually win the Ballon d'Or, but what are the sort of bits you have to tick off realistically if you are going to win it? Because, you know, in terms of him exceeding expectations, we're quite cruel, doesn't it?
It really does, and you know, I think he would have been really pivotal to Spurs this season under Thomas Frank, given how inexperienced they are, given how thin they still